In the vast, icy wilderness of the Arctic, where silence stretches for miles and snow falls like whispers from the sky, a mother's love was about to be tested in the most unimaginable way. Beneath an endless sheet of gray clouds, the frozen tundra stretched outward like a blank canvas painted in white and blue. Wind swept across the landscape in long, mournful sighs, rattling the crusted snow and howling between the jagged ice ridges. In this unforgiving land of isolation and extremes, survival is a daily battle, but so is love. A polar bear mother, massive and regal, lumbered through the snow with steady determination. Her thick fur was crusted with frost, and her breath came out in plumes of fog. At her side bounded a tiny cub, barely a few months old, a ball of white fluff with eyes full of wonder. He tumbled playfully through the snowdrifts, pouncing at flakes as if they were magical creatures. His world was full of joy, exploration, and safety because his mother was always there. She watched him constantly. Her golden eyes scanned the horizon as she listened for predators, scanned for food, and remained acutely aware of every sound beneath the ice. The Arctic could be deadly, not just for her, but for the fragile life that depended on her entirely. Yet that day, despite her vigilance, nature had a cruel twist in store. The cub, chasing after a swirling gust of drifting snow, wandered too far. The wind picked up, curling into a mini twister that danced across the ice. Laughing in his own cub-like way, the little bear chased it, his tiny paws kicking up powder behind him. Then, a sharp, unnatural crack. The sound sliced through the air like a whip. The mother's head snapped around. Her heart seized. In an instant, she was charging forward. But she was too late. The ice beneath her cub had fractured. In one horrifying moment, the thin crust gave way and the cub vanished, swallowed by the frozen earth into a deep, icy crevice. There was no splash, just silence. The mother skidded across the slippery surface, roaring in terror. She reached the edge and peered down, her chest heaving. Far below, in the dim, shadowy blue of the crevasse, was her baby, wedged between frozen walls, whimpering softly. He tried to climb, but there was no footing, just sheer, slick ice. She growled, then tried to dig. With her massive paws, she clawed at the edge of the crevice, sending shards flying. Again and again, she tried, cutting herself on the jagged edges. Blood stained the snow, but she didn't stop. Hours passed, then a day, and still she never left. She circled the opening. She growled. She cried. She pressed her nose to the edge and listened. When the cub whimpered, she let out a low, heart-wrenching moan in return, a mother's lullaby to let him know she was there. She refused to hunt. She refused to move. Her world had collapsed into that icy hole, and she would not leave it. Several miles away, a wildlife research team was monitoring polar bear movements. It was part of a larger conservation effort to track changes in migratory patterns and help protect vulnerable populations as climate change reshaped the Arctic. But something strange caught their attention. One adult female had remained in the same small area for over 24 hours. In the wild, polar bears are always on the move. For a mother to stay in one spot for so long was unusual and worrying. Could be an injury, one team member suggested. Or she's stuck, another said. Or worse. They decided to investigate, bundled in layers of thermal gear, equipped with tracking tech, safety lines, and field med kits. The team headed out into the frostbitten expanse. As they approached, they spotted the mother. She was lying by the edge of the ice, massive, exhausted, barely moving. Her breath was shallow, but her eyes were open, watching them. And then they heard it, a faint, high-pitched cry from the crevice. They rushed to the edge, dropped to their knees, and looked down. Gasps filled the air. There was a cub, still alive, barely. Panic turned to urgency. A full-scale rescue operation began. They set up ropes, anchors, and harnesses, carefully testing the stability of the ice. One wrong step, and a rescuer could plummet to the same icy depths. It was a race against time and the cold. Throughout it all, the mother never interfered. She stood back. She watched with those deep, ancient eyes filled with pain, fear, and maybe hope. It was as if she knew These humans were her last chance. Finally, a young rescuer volunteered to descend. The rope lowered him slowly, inch by inch, into the freezing void. When he reached the cub, he moved with gentle, deliberate care. The little bear was curled tightly, shivering violently. His breaths were shallow. His eyes fluttered open for a moment, then closed. The rescuer wrapped him in a thermal blanket, securing him tightly. With a radio call and a quick tug, the team above began lifting them both to the surface. The moment the bundle emerged from the crevice, the mother moved forward. Slow, careful, trembling, she sniffed the package gently. And when she caught her cub scent, she let out a low, deep sound. Not a roar, but something softer. A sound ancient and primal. A sound that meant relief, recognition, love. The rescuers took a step back. And then the cub stirred. He blinked, whimpered softly. The mother nudged with her snout, and the cub reached up with one tiny paw. They touched nose to nose. They were together again. No one spoke. No one needed to. They had just witnessed something sacred, something real, raw, and almost spiritual. In the middle of a desolate, frozen world, love had endured. A mother had waited. Humans had helped. And a life had been saved. Not because it was profitable, not because it was easy, but because it mattered. Because every heartbeat matters. In a world that often feels colder, both literally and figuratively. It's moments like these that melt even the thickest silence, that remind us love knows no species, no language, no boundaries. Sometimes, all it takes is one act of courage to keep hope alive. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who still believes in second chances. This is AI Rescue Club, where every life, every heartbeat matters.